Good evening, everyone. Lexical scoping and closures. Okay. All right. I will explain it to you. So you, Sanket, you have something on your end. This code को use करके we can start talking about it. Or do you want me to explain it from my end? No. Okay. Cool. I'll explain it to you anyway. So we have already seen the lexical scoping. बहुत difficult चीज नहीं है और closure भी same way में ही काम करता है. Very important concept. I will talk as we go on. I'm doing good. There was no issue on my end. कल cyclone के बारे में सुना होगा आप लोगों ने. So that cyclone के वजह से network issues काफी होते हैं. And due to that, very low voice. Wait. Let me put on the microphone then. Give me a second. Hello. Is it better? Okay, cool. Okay. All right, so we are almost touching 50 here. I'll share the screen. And we were working on this project. So have you guys installed Node.js in your system, all of you, because we are going to use that today? Okay, cool. That's great. And I'll explain you why we need that. Now, before I go into that, someone on unmute. Ronak. Okay. So before I go into that, let's go back to our code pen, which we were working on. And we will get into a little bit more detail on how React works. So let's just go back. Give me a second. I'll share the screen. Okay. So here we are. Give me a second. Also, I will be giving you an assignment today on JavaScript, which you can work over the weekend, and it will contain multiple things. It will be more like a coding. There won't be anything that will be directly to see on the screen, but it's more on a core concept level. Okay, so this is what we were working on the other day. And to reiterate, I said that React gives us React gives us this functionality where we can actually use a component-based system like a function as a function in JavaScript. Or the best part about React is that it helps us write a HTML-looking syntax inside JavaScript. So when I'm returning this, internally React is converting into JavaScript code, and it is able to create all this stuff into what browser can understand. So to do that, what we did was we included a couple of dependencies, which we will see, should see over here. Yeah, this one, sorry. So it's not babe, it's Babel Sridhar. He typed it to babe. Are you doing the right messages? Are you messaging the right person over here, Sridhar? Anyway. Okay, So it's called Babel, and this is a preprocessor, and this preprocessor helps us to convert the latest JavaScript function syntax that you see. जो JSX है बहुत latest modern web technology है, पहले नहीं होता था. तो बहुत सारे browser cannot understand that. So to do that, Babel helps us to convert that. Now, we also have this two libraries which is required. That is the React library and the React DOM library. So React library is basically going to help us create components, जो हमने देखा था अभी, and React DOM library is going to give us the functionality to attach it to my HTML document. So before I go into the details of more on React, एक बार मैं आपको document के बारे में बता देता हूँ कि document होता क्या है. तो उसके लिए what I will do is I'll run this code on my live server. Can you guys see the screen? JavaScript is awesome. Okay, so let me refresh. Are you guys able to see the screen? We will use React in VS Code. Definitely. Without that, आप internally कैसे काम करोगे? Okay, so what is document? जो मैं ये बार बार React DOM कर रहा हूँ, DOM होता क्या है? It's a document object model. तो होता क्या है कि ये जो आप चीज स्ट्रक्चर देख रहे हो HTML का, ये एक डॉक्यूमेंट फॉर्म में क्रिएट हो जाता है फ्रॉम द जावास्क्रिप्ट. सो इफ आई टाइप आउट डॉक्यूमेंट and if I press enter and if I expand this, what do you see? You see the HTML code, right? So this is what your document is. Whenever so in our code here also we had used document, correct? So this is basically telling that okay, जो भी मेरा HTML document है जो load होगा, that becomes an object. And as an object, we know that we can access the properties, and JavaScript is built out of objects. So अगर मैं देखूं कुछ properties इसकी, document dot, let's say URL is a property that JavaScript has already written. So if I enter this, it tells me where I am, what is the URL. So this is the live server ka URL from where this code is being picked up, right? So React is going to build this bridge between our document and our HTML. Okay, it works exactly the same way because React, as I said, is a framework written on top of JavaScript. So internal functioning उसका same होगा, but उन्होंने क्या किया है, उन्होंने खुद का एक React DOM बनाया हुआ है. इसमें नहीं आएगा because for that we would require that library. We won't be able to access this. It will say it is not defined. It will not be able to find it because obvious reason, it does not know what React DOM is. So for that, what we had done is we had included this React DOM library. Does it make sense now? That why do we need all these libraries? Any doubt in this one? Okay, so what is this React DOM library? So for that, let's go to the whiteboard and understand our HTML structure. So now that you know, it comes as a tree. Did I discuss this before? कि हमारा जो डॉक्यूमेंट स्ट्रक्चर होता है या HTML स्ट्रक्चर होता है वो एक ट्री के फॉर्मेट में होता है. सो लेट्स से दिस इज हेड एंड देन दिस इज बॉडी एंड देन वी हैव लाइक सर्टेन थिंग्स h1 और एक p टैग. एंड अगर ज़्यादा स्ट्रक्चर है देन वी कैन ऑब्वियसली create this. So this becomes a whole document. This will become as a form of a document for me. And to make it better, we call it DOM. So document object model. अब ये वर्ड समझ में आ रहे होंगे आपको कि why do we call it document object model? Because this whole document gets converted into an object, which is a kind of a model, the way our data is structured, right? So that's why they have named it as document object model. Now, what is React DOM does? So what React does is they create a virtual DOM out of the real DOM, virtual DOM. And for virtual DOM, they replicate exactly the same structure. Now I might have to copy this. I'll just quickly type it out. HTML. One second. So this is head, and it copies the exactly the same thing, whatever we have created till now, let's say. Now if I'm trying to use my JavaScript to create a new structure in my document or to add something on my document, what I do is I go ahead and use some of the functionalities, document.create element or whatever methods that document provide us to create a new element on HTML. We can do that. And let's say I'm creating a new div. I'll change the color so that it looks like a new div. Okay. So I have this over here as a part of my body over here. I added a new div and using JavaScript. So when I'm doing this, what is happening is this whole structure is kind of taking into account the complete document. So when I restructure my document, existing document, what happens is it reloads the complete thing from top to bottom. Okay. And that is a kind of an expensive transaction. So when I say expensive transaction, it means it takes some time to do this. It might not be too much time if you think कि 1 घंटा 2 घंटा लग रहा है. It might be in the matter of milliseconds or microseconds, but it is still a little expensive and a time-taking process. What React does is in this scenario, so let's say I want to create a new div. So I'll go ahead, create a new component basically, and it will check that where the new document is going to come into picture. So let's say I want to add, what should we add? Let's add a text area. ठीक है, हमें एक text area डालना है, इसको हम blue कर देते हैं so that we understand it is from React. I want to add this. So in my library, I'm going to add text area or create a functional component, and that component is going to compare itself with the real DOM. This is the real DOM on the left hand side, and right hand side is the virtual DOM. So what is happening is there is a comparison happening between the two. Now once the comparison is happening, what happens is it checks which part of the DOM is actually getting updated. Instead of updating the complete DOM, what it does is it sees that, okay, this is where I need to add a text area. Okay, so there is a difference. It compares and checks out from the real DOM, compares and sees that, okay, there is a difference over here. So what I'll do is I will just go ahead and render this part. I will just render that text area component. तो अगर मैं इसको ऐसे लिखूं तो समझ में आएगा कि ये एक text area function है जो कि add हो रहा है यहाँ पे. Okay, so what happens is now instead of loading the complete DOM, virtual DOM is helping me. It's like a middle phase where I'm checking with the real DOM and how which part of the document needs to be updated, and that's why it becomes very fast in terms of updating our front end. Does it make sense? So I'll just quickly recap. You can just check it out on the video as well. Okay, so virtual DOM is kind of a replica of the original DOM. And when we are trying to add something or create a new thing, so what it does is instead of creating the whole DOM or recreating the whole DOM, what it does is it kinds of check what is the difference, and then that difference is just updated on our real DOM. So उसमें एक जो functionality होती है, let's say document dot create element और element का नाम let's say text area. Okay, text area. तो ये क्या करता है, real DOM के साथ खेलता है. Why? Because this is a document object I am using. When I come to React DOM, उनका internally ये function जैसे भी उन्होंने लिखा होगा उस पे काम करता है, and it says render. Where do I want to render it? We give what we want to render. Let's say I want to render text area, and where do I want to render it? So I say document dot जो भी जैसे भी get element by id. Id is basically the attribute, and inside this we say root. Okay, right? Sanjeev is on unmute. Can you close the mute button and the camera as well? Thank you. Okay. It will not take time, Ravindra. Why? Because rendering is the part which is visible to user, right? कब जाके attach हो रहा है, that is the point that it works with the user. जब comparison और internal working चल रही है under the hood, it is doing it on its own pace whenever we are clicking it, right? So it uses that React DOM to just attach it over here, which is a much faster task than to reload the complete or restructure or recreate the whole DOM from the top. Instead of that, it recreates only the part that is needed. Is it possible to overwrite one tag with another at the same speed? It solely depends on the content. अगर आपका structure बड़ा है और एक छोटा है, तो it doesn't make sense, right? Right? So this, Diksha, what do you mean by diff algorithm? Yes, everything is a linked list. अगर आप लोग को linked list के बारे में पता है तो ये nodes create होता है. Document में HTML, body, head, H1P, everything is called a node. And that node gets connected to each one. Tree structure कैसे बनता है? Node से ही तो बनता है. एक single node से connect होके tree बनता है. Diksha, so if you are interested in finding out the algorithm, which is a much more detailed version of it, it's called reconciliation algorithm. I'm going to type it out in the chat. Reconciliation algorithm. So what reconciliation means? Layman terms में क्या मतलब होता है reconciliation का? English check कर लिया मैंने. Reconcile कर रहा है, मतलब it is recreating. And how does it reconcile? By just making a comparison. Spelling wrong है जो मैंने भेजी है, but this is how it works. तो ये समझ में आया वर्चुअल डॉम, और हमने जो एक्स्ट्रा चीजें इंक्लूड की हैं अपनी फाइल में, why is it required? Does it make sense? Yes, reconciliation. Okay, so I'll move forward. I guess you guys are understanding what I'm saying. What is the doubt? Unmute yourself, Sridhar, so that everyone can hear.
Sir, now, like the previous one which you mentioned, document.create element, where does it get created? So, like, because for the React DOM.render, we are specifying where we want to create using the ID, but for the previous one, we aren't.
So this is the regular document, like real DOM में जब हम create करते हैं, तो create element जब भी कर रहे हैं, that is directly attaching, similarly attach कर रहा है. But what is happening is it is recreating the whole DOM, HTML से लेके जहां तक नया चीज आ रहा है तब तक it is creating the whole thing. In virtual DOM, it is just making a comparison, saying that okay, this part is where we want to recreate a new element. It just goes and attaches it to that part using their algorithm.
No, sir, like, is it possible, like, how will we know if you're creating it within another tag? Like, that was my question.
How, what? Come again?
like now, like last class in JavaScript, when you use this render function, we specified the ID, so we knew that that pizza function was being created within that div tag.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
So now,
Yes.
document.create element, when we do that, we're
Yeah.
just creating a tag, but where, how do we know under which tag, or like, is it under body, or is it like inside another tag? Like,
नहीं नहीं, I get your point. तो एक बार क्रिएट करने के बाद इट्स लाइक इट्स हैंगिंग, टेक्स्ट एरिया बन गया है, अभी तक हमने अटैच नहीं किया हुआ है. वी हैव टू गो अहेड एंड अटैच इट. करेक्ट, व्हाटएवर वंदित इज सेइंग. आफ्टर दिस वी गेट टू से ओके डॉक्यूमेंट डॉट अपेंड, और क्या अपेंड करना है, तो ये जो ऊपर वाला टेक्स्ट एरिया है वो पूरा अपेंड करना है, तो ये पूरा स्टेटमेंट इसके अंदर आ जाएगा. सो दैट कम्स अंडर कंप्लीट डॉम मैनिपुलेशन व्हिच इज एन एडवांस्ड कॉन्सेप्ट. ठीक है. So it's like I'm just creating it. I have not attached it somewhere. To attach it, you need to append it somewhere. Let's say कि ये document dot append करेंगे तो सीधे रूट पे अपेंड कर देगा. यहाँ पे अगर हमने कोई और एलिमेंट यूज किया है, लेट्स से बॉडी, तो हमें पहले बॉडी चूज करना पड़ेगा, फिर बॉडी में अपेंड करना पड़ेगा ये div. Does it make sense?
yes, sir.
Yes, correct. Anam and Vandit, that is the way. जो अनम और वंदित ने बोला, it's correct. All right, so Ravindra has a question. New component gets attached without reloading the web page as we scroll through FB. Yes, correct. Exactly. Exactly. That is the usage. That is the advantage of having React. Okay. So if you are getting this, let's go back to our code pen and understand this better. So here we had created this. We need that React is doing its job internally. But one thing that I see is this one has a static, as I said, static data. It is still static. अगर मैं ये component बार बार use करूँ, तो this is going to give me a lot of pizza related card all the time, every time that I create. So for this, I need to get a dynamic data as well. How do I get the dynamic data? We use thing called props, which is basically a short form for properties. And properties are used to send data from one component to another component. So we are going to see how we structure or have the hierarchy of component building अपने React में. अभी हमने बस एक component use किया है, अभी हम बहुत सारे components बनाएंगे, उसका एक tree structure बनाएंगे और उस tree structure को अपने HTML में लगा देंगे. But यहाँ पे अभी we are understanding the basics. So these properties are going to help me define what data I am giving it to the component. So if you guys remember the React.org, क्या था वो, react.js.org. Yeah. So if you remember this, it says it's declarative, and I said that it handles UI and data separately. Okay. So in this scenario, I have created a UI, like, okay, this is how it is going to look like. But I have fixed the data as a very constant part, right? So to do this, I'm going to use properties, which is going to make it more dynamic in nature. When I say dynamic in nature, I can provide depending on user or depending on whatever entry I'm capturing and passing it to my components. All right. So to do this, I pass props. So when I pass props, it receives it over here. It receives that inside this function. It's like passing a parameter to this function. Now we are passing that over here, and here, if we are trying to access any code which is like which is a JavaScript code inside a JSX, so this part is a JSX. अब हमें वापस JavaScript जैसी चीजें access करनी है. What we use is a curly braces. So when we define a curly braces, okay, I can't comment like this. JSX के अंदर अलग comment होता है, वो हम लोग IDE में देखेंगे. But अगर हमें इसकी property, so this becomes like an object. It's an object and it has values inside it. So any object will have like props dot whatever property we are trying to access. Okay. So I need to access props. So this is going to be an object basically, और उसके अंदर से कुछ values extract करना चाहेंगे, the properties that it is holding. So I will say props dot let's say name. Okay. So how does this object gets created? How do I get this object created? So to do that, when I am passing this, when I am using this particular component, pizza component, I use these names or whatever property that I want to define for this particular component. So to make it easier, I will use name over here and pass a value of Pizza Hut. Okay. So when I do this, अभी देख रहे हो लेफ्ट हैंड साइड में वैल्यू नहीं था. अगर मैं इसको हटा दूं, empty string भेजूं, what happens? There is no name defined. That structure is created, that UI is created, but the data is not there yet, whatever we want to display. So we can display it using the properties. So how to define a property? It's like I am passing the argument to this. Exactly. So it kinds of looks like an attribute, but मैंने बोला था कि ये HTML syntax जैसा दिखता है, but internally वो है JavaScript ही. Just for the ease of writing this code, it works easier for us to understand. Yes, initially, Pratik, you might find it a little confusing, but your concept should be clear that what we are doing, what are these things. ठीक है? तो हमने क्या किया? एक पिज्जा बना लिया, और उसके बाद हमें ये चीज डिफाइन कर दिया कि इसमें कुछ प्रॉपर्टीज आएगी. नाउ दिस हैज बिकम अ वेरी इंडिपेंडेंट फंक्शनल कंपोनेंट. अब इसमें तुम कोई भी प्रॉपर्टी भेजते रहो, वो ऑटोमेटिकली अपडेट होता रहेगा, राइट? सो जैसे हमने div2 बनाया था कल, लेट्स क्रिएट अ div2 root2, sorry. Okay, and use this over here, make this root2 and name it as Dominoes. Because if I use the root, what will happen is it will override the existing thing. So do you see how easily I have used this functional component and recreated the whole structure again just by attaching this? Right? Okay. All right. So Amit has sent us something. What is it? Do you want me to show it, Amit? Assignment or something? Anyway, we will come to that later. So are you getting it? Are you able to understand what I'm trying to explain? कि कैसे React का ये functional component, and we can create multiple components like this. Correct? Multiple components like this. Or this has become very independent of the data that we are having. And that's why when I say that React handles UI and data separately. Okay? All right. चलो तो अब इसका प्रैक्टिकल इम्प्लीमेंटेशन देखते हैं. तो उसके लिए props is a keyword. Yeah, we should use props. Props is a keyword. So props.name. Before I go ahead and add something to this, what I will do is we will go to the beginner MERN code. And here what we will do is first create our very first React app. Yes, we are coming to that only, Venkatesh. Next step is that. The use of prop basically is to pass the data to the component. And every time we pass this property into a component, we can extract data from that object, right? Okay, people are on unmute. Is there a question? Okay, unmute yourself, Amit. Yeah, okay. ठीक है, तो अभी हम लोग क्या करते हैं, आप लोग के पास node होगा, तो you can check whether you have installed node by saying node version. I have an older version of node, I still have to update it, but once you do node -v, it will tell you the version. With this comes a npm command as well, which is going to tell me the version of npm, which is a package manager. It automatically gets installed with your node. Okay, you don't have to do extra thing. I just wanted to show you this. Now to create any application, we use this command called npx, and we use this create react app. So when we have npx create react app, ये एक script है basically. Create react app is a script given to us by Facebook, and this will create the whole structure. जो भी चीजें अभी हमने add करी थी ना अलग से, it is going to create that thing. That whole dependency, Babel install कर देगा आपका, React DOM library install कर देगा, React library install कर देगा, and all the dependent stuff will be installed in this. Okay, so npx create react app, but for that you would need node. ऐसे without node अगर आप npx चलाना चाहोगे तो वो नहीं चलेगा, because there is a dependency. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to download the dependency from internet, and this might take some time in some system. ठीक है, and I will call this my first React app. So this is the name that you want to give to the project. Yes, Sachin. PIP in Python. जहाँ पे बहुत सारी लाइब्रेरीज होती हैं आपकी, राइट? आप लोग जो numpy और pandas, अलग अलग टाइप की लाइब्रेरीज जो आप लोग पाइथन में यूज करते हो, कहीं से डाउनलोड करते हो, राइट? या अपने सिस्टम में यूज करते हो, तो वो चीज सिमिलर टू दैट यहाँ पे यूज होती है. Yes, there is also yarn. Yarn and npm are almost the same. All right, so npx create react app, my first React app is the name of the project that I'm going to create. Can you repeat npx? Npx is something similar to npm. npm या npx जो भी है, that is similar to your that is a similar looking, what you call it, command. But only thing is, when I use npx, it's basically I'm telling that go to a library somewhere in the internet and get me the script and install the script, and then use my first create react app as a project. So let me enter this. Yeah, what it will start doing is it will start installing the dependencies to my system. All right, so when we do this, what happens is this is going to take some time to install. Can you see it installing? Can you see it installing? Okay. Yes, it will come there. There are a few questions. What is the full form of npx? So npx is node package execute, like node package manager, node package execute. Okay, so what it does is it executes from the internet directly. Anyway, so in the meanwhile it installs all this dependency. प्रीत सीधे पहुंच गया ई कॉमर्स कैसे बनाते हैं, पहले देख तो लो बनता कैसे रिएक्ट. Okay, so now we will go to, yes, every single project, if you want, you have to install this dependency. So as you can see on the left hand side, my first react app करके एक folder आ गया और इसमें कुछ कुछ चीजें अपने आप add हो रही होंगी. So very first thing is the package.json. We will come to that, but let it install. In the meanwhile, we will go back to our code pen, and I would give a more explanation on props in the meanwhile. So props, as I said, becomes an object. So when it becomes an object, I can access a lot of properties from there. Okay. Okay. So now I will say props unexpected character. 1 second. Yeah. Props dot description. Let's say there is a tagline or something. What is the issue? Yeah. Okay. Props dot description. But हमने यहाँ पे कोई props add नहीं किए. So it's basically I am building a kind of a property to this existing object of props. तो इसके लिए I will add a description over here. Description, and remember these names should be similar. Name, description, जो भी आप pass कर रहे हो. And best pizza. So if I save this, it is auto saving. What do you see? It is kind of printing that description as well. Yes. Right? नहीं, ये keywords नहीं है अनुराग. This name you can choose, but you'll have to make sure that these names gets aligned inside when you are accessing it. So let's say brand. If I change it to brand, so I'll have to use brand over here because you see it gets, that name gets removed. Why? Because it does not find any property name as name over here. So if I use brand over here, then the second one will lose its name, but the brand will come into picture. Similarly, description भी होना चाहिए, right? So these are the properties that we are describing. So do you understand how these props work? This is kind of an object from which we are extracting these properties. So we have to make sure that whatever property name that we are giving or passing should be similar. Okay. We will come to the input part when we see how React handles forms. Forms हम लोग create करेंगे React में, so it will help me understand कि कैसे चलता है वो. So let's go back, and what do we see? It is still installing, but it is almost done. And as you can see, there are a lot of dependencies that it has installed. It is telling me that please isko change kar lo and all that stuff. There is no vulnerability. And that is happening just because we are using the script provided to us by our very own Facebook saying create React app. You do this and you are good to start your React project. These are basic dependencies. So let it create it. It might take some time. And this usually takes some time. All right. Now it is done. It says happy hacking. At that time, Vandit, we will be using NPM. Vandit has a question that whether we will be using NPX all the time. No, we will be using NPM, and we will be using NPM in this one also. Okay. So now what we see is we have this application up and running. Not up and running, basically. We have some suggestions from the script itself. It says that, okay, there is something that I have for you. There is a success. I have created this inside your directory. So this has given me some commands. As you can see, there is this npm command, and you will understand what npm will do now. So npm is basically, there are different packages that got installed. So it's like a building blocks of React जो combine करके पूरा React ecosystem बनाता है, right? It creates a whole React ecosystem. So when the whole React ecosystem is created, it requires different packages to build that system. And that's why the very first thing that you saw while it was building up was the package.json. And ये सारी चीज आप from the scratch खुद भी बना सकते हो, but we have create React app to get us started from the bare minimum requirement जो हमने वहाँ पे set किया, environment set किया and all that stuff. We might not require it using this. So as you can see, it has some properties. It is like an object, right? Something like an object. It is a JSON file. What JSON file means is a JavaScript object notation. So you see the data that we have over here looks like an object, and we can convert this into an object and use them as the property. ठीक है? तो ये name property हो गई, उसका नाम ये हो गया. So we can create it on our own, but at the moment we are going to stick to create React app, and these are giving me some information. I will not go into the details of all this. I will remove all this. Testing, हम लोग testing नहीं करेंगे. Web vitals हम लोग रखते हैं. This is a new thing that got introduced anyway. So React, React DOM, and React script. This is something very important to have all those. So React script के अंदर उन्होंने जो भी Babel configurations हैं and Webpack configurations है, which I'm going to talk about, is going to be there. Scripts is basically जो अब हम use करेंगे अपने system में चलाने के लिए. So it is going to act like a server. So when I say npm start, it is going to start my server. जो अभी तक हम लोग live server से कर रहे थे, अब हम live server नहीं create करेंगे. We are going to run these applications using the commands that is given to us. Build is used before deployment, so we are not interested in that right now. Test is something that we want to use when we are trying to test something, but we are not going to test anything. And eject is something that it takes up some space on the system. So we might want to remove that space from the system by using this command. So we are mostly going to do npm start most of the times. So these are the scripts. These are some helper functions, which is basically कि आप गलत code ना लिखो, या this is more of a syntactical validation where it says that okay, whatever you have written might be wrong, or it gives you suggestions when you are running this application, and you will see this a lot. And this is telling you that if you are running in development mode, so we will be running in development mode. So it is going to work in the last one Chrome version, Firefox version, and Safari version. And if you are deploying this code, then it will work for all the things that has been tagged as not dead or not Opera Mini and all. So these are the exceptions, but basically this is going to run for the most of the browsers now. All right. So these are the basic checks, and it is a kind of an information. Now, based on this information, we have the dependent files that was getting downloaded all this while. So we will go inside the node modules, and you see there are so many files over here. Imagine if we had to write all these files on our own to create one simple project. You would be like, नहीं मैं normal static ही बना लेता हूँ, मेरे को इतना high-fi site नहीं चाहिए. But this is the dependent files, and it has a lot of JavaScript codes. And as you can see, there is Babel as well, the one that we talked about. And inside this, the main core functionalities that Babel has provided. So ये एक company है जो ये provide करती है, और it is a collaboration of many such packages. And these are the packages that gets installed. So this node module is auto-generated. Whenever we create any application, this gets auto-generated. We will come to public file. So node module will always get auto-generated. Package देख लिया. Package.log JSON जो होता है वो specific to system होता है. So this also gets auto-generated. Why? Because it will lock the version of the code. तो आपने देखा कि मेरा first React app है और इसका सबसे पहला version हम create कर रहे हैं. तो अब हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं कि ये वाला वर्जन लॉक कर दिया है मेरे सिस्टम पे. बेबल का ये वाला वर्जन लॉक कर दिया है सिस्टम पे. और सो जो भी डिपेंडेंसीज हैं, जो भी वर्जन्स चाहिए होते हैं, वो सब ऑटोमेटिकली लॉक हो गया है यूजिंग दैट सिंपल क्रिएट रिएक्ट ऐप कमांड, राइट? सो दैट इज डन, and node module is auto generated all the dependencies, so these two are linked. ठीक है, तो ये बेसिक रिएक्ट स्क्रिप्ट 4.0.1 के अंदर इतनी सारी डिपेंडेंसीज थी जो चाहिए होती है. So this is pretty crazy how modern web works. With a little bit of script, I can create so many things. Now let's come to public and source. So public क्या होता है? Public is the folder which basically is going to be like a folder which is available for the internet, जहाँ पे हम सारी चीज़ें डालेंगे. और इसमें एक फाइल है index.html करके, जो कि मेन फाइल है जो हमारा लोड होता है on the browser. This is the index.html that gets loaded on the browser like everything else. So as I said, HTML is the entry point, and this is how we transfer data. And it has linked some files and whatnot, the way the script has generated. It has given a title, right? Now, here it says div id root. And it says this HTML file is a template. If you open it directly in the browser, you will see an empty page. You can see web fonts, meta tags, and analytics to this file. The build setup will place and bundle product script into the body tag. So what this means is, जो भी मैं अब functions या components बनाने वाला हूँ, that is going to go and sit inside this div. हम लोग यहाँ पे HTML में कोई changes नहीं करेंगे, ये ऐसे का ऐसा ही रहेगा, and this is going to be loaded. As you can see, it is empty, right? Now let me go ahead and start my development server. So when I say development server, what I'm doing is, as it says, starts the development server. I am kind of creating it as a server, or this whole system of mine is going to uh, act as a server where I'm going to hit the URL and it is going to give me some code. So to do that, I'll say npm start. And that's why your npm is required, because what it does is it creates the node, starts the node package manager related to that. So जो भी package required है, it is going to start that, which is basically my development server. Okay, मैंने वो बहुत बिगनर मिस्टेक कर दी. अभी हम लोग ने जो एप्लीकेशन बनाया है उसके बाहर हैं अभी हम लोग. सॉरी, एंड दिस इज गुड दैट आई डिड दैट. तो अभी हम लोग ने CSS, जावास्क्रिप्ट और ये वाला एप्लीकेशन बनाया है, और ये सारा कोड इस एप्लीकेशन के अंदर है, सॉरी फोल्डर के अंदर है. सो आई नीड टू गो इनसाइड दिस फोल्डर and then run npm start. Okay, a lot of you are going to come back and ask me कि मेरा ये no init आ रहा है. Please make sure that you go inside the folder after you have created it. And when you start this, it is going to say I am going to start this React script wala package. And once it is starting this package, it will tell me that development server is going to start. So we will give it a second to start. Hopefully it does. Yes, it's starting the development server, and it takes me to the browser automatically, which you guys will not be able to see now, but now you can. So you see it is running on a local host. It's like a server that has started locally, and I'm trying to hit that server, and it is loading that server. Because ये क्या दिख रहा है आपको? HTML में कोई कोड देखा था आपने? नहीं देखा था, राइट? बट हो क्या रहा है, काम चीज़ें तो आ रही हैं. HTML में एक लोगो आ गया, कुछ टेक्स्ट आ गया, लर्न रिएक्ट आ गया लिंक के साथ, राइट? तो ऑल दिस स्टफ इज द फंक्शन कंपोनेंट्स दैट वी हैव क्रिएटेड. सो उन्होंने भी ये इस टाइप के कंपोनेंट्स क्रिएट किए हुए, और वो कंपोनेंट जाके मेरे HTML में लोड हो गया. आर यू एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड नाउ how this thing is working slowly and steadily? So these are going to get attached in my div id root. Now once I have it on my root, how do I get it? ये आ कहाँ से रहा है डेटा, किधर से आ रहा है ये? So to understand that, let's go to the very main file that we are going to work on most of the time, and that is the source. इसमें बेसिकली जो लोगो है, और ये बड़े फाइल में और छोटे विंडो में कैसा लोगो दिखेगा, ये लोगो वहां से आ रहा है. घूम कैसे रहा है, वो उन्होंने अपना एनिमेशंस जो भी लिखा हो उससे आ रहा है, वो घूमता रहता है. सो आई विल ओपन द source file, and this is the main file where we are going to write our codes most of the time. Guys, give me a second, my battery is running really low. I'll just attach my charger. Okay. All right. So you see a lot of files over here inside the source. So let's go into each one of them one by one. The very first file that I'm going to go inside is the index.js, and this is the point where I connect my React with my HTML. Have you seen something like this before? साथ में हम लोग ने साथ में देखा है ऐसा कुछ कोड पहले, राइट? कोड पेन पे देखा था, क्या कर रहा था? रिएक्ट डॉम यूज कर रहा है यहाँ पे, करेक्ट? सो what this means is this is kind of saying कि कोई तो एक ऐप जैसा कंपोनेंट है, उसको जाके अटैच कर दो document डॉट गेट एलिमेंट बाय आईडी एट रूट, and what is that part? And that root is here, right? So there is a connect over here now. So index.js is going to connect, but how are we going to connect? How is it happening? This is happening because I have imported these files. हमारे सिस्टम में JS फाइल में हमने बोला कि इंपोर्ट करना है. इंपोर्ट का मतलब समझ रहे हो आप लोग? यू नो व्हाट इंपोर्ट डज? इसका ये मतलब है कि हम कोई सेट ऑफ फाइल या कुछ चीजें यहाँ पे इंक्लूड कर रहे हैं, एक प्रोग्राम लिखा होगा रिएक्ट के अंदर, उसको हम लोग यूज करके वो चीजें यहाँ पे अटैच कर रहे हैं. तो रिएक्ट डॉम चाहिए, हमें रिएक्ट चाहिए. ध्रुव, वी विल कम टू दैट. आई डोंट थिंक वी कैन डू दैट. कैन वी डू दैट? चलो ध्रुव का क्वेश्चन सॉल्व भी कर देते हैं बाय चेकिंग इट आउट ऑन द ब्राउजर. क्या लगता है वैसे आप लोग, ध्रुव का जो क्वेश्चन है क्या होना चाहिए इसका रिस्पॉन्स? नो, यस? मैंने बोला था ये एक it will work. It does work. Pretty cool, right? So अब यहाँ से नॉर्मल जावास्क्रिप्ट जैसी फंक्शनैलिटी, क्या बोला था मैंने? यहाँ पे एक जावास्क्रिप्ट लिखेंगे और जावास्क्रिप्ट लिखने के लिए हमें कर्ली ब्रेसेस देना पड़ेगा. If I do not give curly braces, JSX will not understand it as a JavaScript and it prints whatever is written in between that. Okay? All right. So this is a basic JavaScript functionality. You can use the JavaScript functionality over here. All right. Let's go back. क्या कर रहे थे हम लोग? What were we doing? Exploring. React. Cool. I just lost the chain of thoughts. We were talking about import root element. Okay. So what is happening? Yeah, correct. Thank you, Ganga. So we were saying that this is where we are attaching all those kind of functions that has been created by the script that we have created. तो यहाँ पे हमें HTML अब लिखने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. हम क्या करेंगे, यहाँ पे एक सिंपल ऐप दिया है और ये सारी चीजें नहीं है. पहले क्या होता था कि ये रिएक्ट स्ट्रिक्ट मोड नहीं होता था. Here, Anam, we are attaching it over here. We are targeting document.getElement by ID, right? And this is known. Now you must be wondering कि हमने क्या index.html में लिंक किया है कोई फाइल? हमने कोई फाइल लिंक की है? कोई स्क्रिप्ट कुछ किया है? नहीं किया है, राइट? क्या लगता है कहाँ से आ रहा होगा ये? That is coming from React DOM. React DOM has been written internally such a way that it will connect my document to the React DOM. It will read the React DOM within the same folder structure, the index.html file. So all that thing has been abstracted. It has taken out from it. It has taken out from it and it has integrated it in its system, right? And the second thing that you see over here is it has react.strict mode, which means ये एक additional check है to see that इसका जो descendants है उसमें कुछ problem ना हो. We will not go into that, confuse नहीं कर रहा हूँ, but ये structure एक बार आप लोग देख लोगे उसके बाद you come back to this, then it will make more sense. So basically you can think of it, ये ऐसे भी काम करेगा. React strict mode हटा देता हूँ मैं अभी, and it will recompile. So as you can see, it's like I'm changing the code in my server directly, and it is recompiling stuff. I hope there is no error that comes up. Let me just wait for this to recompile. Yes, it works. It says that go ahead, use your local host and check it out. And if I go to my localhost where my code is, and it is still working. Okay, cool. So what I'm doing is I am saying that use this component, load this component at root. अब इस component के अंदर वो सारी चीजें होंगी. हाँ, हम लोग पहुंच रहे हैं, ऐप पे पहुंच रहे हैं. Yes, correct, Bikramjeet. It is like an additional check for components which are in the older version of it. तो before I can say nested components कैसे काम करते हैं, हम लोग एक simple सा component रखें. तो ये हो गया मेरा index.file, index.js, और इसमें कुछ स्टाइल भी इन्होंने इंक्लूड किया हुआ है. इसका ये मतलब है यहाँ पे कुछ css है जो कि यहाँ से वो पिकअप कर रहा है, and this css is going to get applied automatically. Okay, the font and everything. Now we will go to the most important file, that is app.js. Now this is what a component is, something similar to the component, right? This is the component that we are using. जैसे हमने पिज्जा फंक्शन क्रिएट किया था, उसके बाद हमने इसको यहाँ पे फंक्शन कंपोनेंट में लोड किया है, राइट? नाउ दिस वन ओवर हियर is going to be this one here is going to be the one value that gets returned and loaded on my browser. So looks like a HTML, looks like an HTML, but this is a JSX, correct? Make sense? क्या हो रहा है? ये JSX है, ये HTML नहीं है, ठीक है? Any doubts here? Okay, cool. Now inside this,
Hello.
yeah, Ravindra, tell me.
The only difference between this HTML and JSX is that we can add JavaScript also in it, like this logo and using this curly brace.
Correct.
Okay.
There is a whole lot of difference. Do not confuse it with HTML. ये HTML है नहीं. JSX बस ये तुम्हारे को अच्छे से दिखने के लिए and easier to write. They have used this kind of a syntax जब उन्होंने डिजाइन किया था. Internally क्या हो रहा है कि वो JavaScript में ही बदल रहा है, functions में ही बदल रहा है.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Okay, cool. So as you can see, there is a lot of code over here. So we are not going to go into this. And I'll remove everything. So once I remove everything, I'm just left with a class name and app. So this will make changes to my application, which you see right now, which will, after the changes has been done, it is, I don't know why it is taking so much time to get reflected. Logo is undefined. Cool. All right, let's go back to the code. So what is happening is compiled with warning. बोल रहा है कि आपने लोगो लाया तो है, इंपोर्ट तो किया है, कहीं यूज नहीं किया है, तो ये इस चीज का काम है ESLint config का. इस टाइप की वार्निंग्स देने का काम ESLint का है. अब इसको हम सेव कर देते हैं and it is going to recompile the stuff, and I'm worried why it is taking so much time. Is it getting heavier on my system? Let's wait for this to recompile. Okay, so if I share my screen now, you see it is all empty. Nothing is shown because I have removed the major aspect of that component. So you are able to understand and relate that where this component is getting picked up from, right? अब इस component में अगर मैं कुछ लिखता हूँ, so I am adding a new JSX and I will call this as H1, my first app, React app. So if I call this my first React app, and it will take some time to recompile, which is a problem at the moment. Yeah, so you see it has come up over here. So you must be understanding that, okay, now this is getting the content. There is a function who is receiving some props, doing all that stuff that we talked about in the functional component, right? But let's go a step backward and introduce the concept of classes that we had already seen. So जब हम classes की बात कर रहे थे, let's just comment this out, and say I will create the same thing using the class keyword, and I will say app. Now when I'm using a class, I have to include components. So component is something that is a part of React. तो हम लोग extends keyword use करते हैं किसी भी child component को include करने के लिए. And component is a very important aspect of React, and it comes as a part of React library. So I say react.component. So to make it better, what I'll do is I'll remove this. I'll remove the CSS as well. I don't want anything. I'll rip off everything that is there, and I will start importing React. So this is kind of a name that you're giving from all the libraries that you have loaded in your package.json. So I'll say React. So React is one library that we need. Now, since I have included this, I will also want to include a component. ये जो structure में लिख रहा हूँ, एक बार आप लोग खुद से practice करना, और उस चीज को हम लोग आगे चल के better understand करेंगे कि इसका मतलब हो क्या रहा है. ये हमने ऐसा ब्रैकेट में क्यों लिखा, ये नॉर्मल रिएक्ट क्यों लिखा, राइट? तो हम लोग कर क्या रहे हैं, यहाँ पे इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं रिएक्ट एप्लीकेशन से उसकी कुछ प्रॉपर्टीज, और वो हम यूज करने वाले हैं. अब ये क्लास आपने देखा था कि क्लास क्या करता है, इट्स लाइक अ ऐप, सॉरी, इट्स लाइक अ स्ट्रक्चर. नाउ आई एम क्रिएटिंग अ class component. This is called a class component, class based components. So class based components का सबसे पहला पार्ट क्या होता है, रेंडर फंक्शन. विदाउट रेंडर फंक्शन, क्योंकि आप ऊपर देख रहे हो सिर्फ एक फंक्शन था और उसमें रिटर्न वैल्यू था. बट क्लास बेस्ड कंपोनेंट्स में एक रेंडर फंक्शन होता है. इट्स लाइक एक क्लास के अंदर हमने एक फंक्शन लिखा है. तो रिएक्ट में सेम चीज उन्होंने रेंडर फंक्शन रखा है, विच इज अ नेसेसरी फंक्शन to implement whenever we are using a class based components. What this does is this basically renders whatever we want to see on the screen. Now here No, we are not going to override render. We are using the render function to, are you talking about the index.js render? This one? No, so this is a React DOM render. This is a React DOM render. And this is a React के अंदर जो हम लोग class components बना रहे हैं उसका render. अलग है ये. Okay? So it's like saying that whatever I'm going to show on my screen, and I will say render function और इससे return करो कुछ value. क्या return करो? एक h1 return करो. Yes, JSX return karo. We are writing a JSX right now. This is not HTML. This is a class component. So when I do this and compile it, what it is going to do is this is going to return a class-based component to my application. So let it load, refresh it, and this is a class component. It loads, correct? ऐसे visually आपको नहीं पता चल रहा, but internally this is very powerful. Class-based components. Understood what we are trying to do? Now, can you guys relate it to the class that we have used in JavaScript already? It is something similar, but there are few modifications, there are few enhancements done by Facebook, and they have created some predefined classes. Now, this name over here is also in capital letters, so I don't have to change anything over here. What it does is it goes ahead and says, okay, मेरे को तो ऐप मिल रहा है. कहाँ से मिल रहा है? हमने import किया है. कहाँ से import किया है? इस पर्टिकुलर डॉट ऐप से. तो इसका ये मतलब है कि वो सेम फोल्डर में सर्च करेगा डॉट ऐप. डॉट जेएस देने की जरूरत नहीं है बिकॉज रिएक्ट अंडरस्टैंड्स दैट दिस इज गोइंग टू बी अ जेएस फाइल, अ जावास्क्रिप्ट फाइल, and it goes ahead, picks it up, imports it over here and start using it as a component. Something similar to the code pen जहां पे हमने अलग से import नहीं किया था कुछ क्योंकि हमने सेम फाइल में सब लिखा हुआ था. Here we had written everything in the same file, like here. So if we would have written it in a different file, we would have imported it over here and used that over here. Okay? Make sense? समझ में आ रहा है ना? Because React का जो initial learning curve है थोड़ा सा syntactically different होता है. Internal understanding बहुत ज़रूरी है इसकी, तभी जाके आप इस पे build कर पाओगे आगे. अगर आपको internal functioning नहीं पता है इसका कि काम क्या चल रहा है, तो आप आगे चल के build भी नहीं कर पाओगे. ठीक है? So, and that was very important. Now, do you see the importance of class and objects from JavaScript? Can you relate that when I'm showing you all these functionalities? Yes, no response. Anyway, so we will continue. So we have understood कि चलो ठीक है, ये वाली चीजें render function is important. यहाँ पे हम कुछ अपनी चीजें भी लिख सकते हैं, अपनी भी functionalities कर सकते हैं. Now, as I said, to include a JavaScript, I can include a variable over here, and I will say let dynamic name is equal to some value, MERN, or let's just say React is mind blowing. And what I do is I just go ahead and use this dynamic name. कुछ ऐसा लग रहा है कि एक फंक्शन के अंदर हम काम कर रहे हैं. क्लास बेस्ड फंक्शन को हमने उसके मेथड के अंदर चीजें लिखना शुरू कर दिया हमने. अब यहाँ पे जाएंगे अगर वापस, and if I refresh this, let it refresh. It's taking some time. You see, it has changed. React is mind blowing. Yes, Bikram, they have moved to function based components, and we mostly try to use functional component more than class-based component, and I'll tell you the reason why that is there. And that is the reason I'm trying to tell you the React's class-based component. Not Facebook developers, most of the React developers have moved to functional-based components. Okay, so this dynamic value has been changed. So can you tell me in a very technical way what is happening over here with the import function? If you see the class, फंक्शन तो समझ में आ गया था, क्लास को अगर हम अंडरस्टैंड करें तो हो क्या रहा है यहाँ पे एक इंस्टेंस बना रहा है उसका, राइट? वी आर क्रिएटिंग एन इंस्टेंस ऑफ दैट क्लास. नाउ इफ आई पास सम प्रॉपर्टीज, we are creating an instance of that app if it is a class based component. We are importing it from app. Yeah, this is from app.js. This whole thing is from app.js. This is the file that is getting imported, right? And that is what is getting attached to the render DOM. Okay, so but there is a statement at the bottom of this which says export default app. Now ये जो import export आप देख रहे हो ना, this is a very new features of ES6. These are a very new features of ES6. मनन फंक्शनल कंपोनेंट का भी सेम चीज होता है. इट्स जस्ट दैट वो प्रोटोटाइप टर्म्स में काम करता है. प्रोटोटाइप में भी सेम चीज होता है. इट इज क्रिएटिंग अ प्रोटोटाइप. वो सेम चीज करता है, बट क्लास बेस्ड कंपोनेंट इज समथिंग न्यू एंड इट हैज सम एडिशनल फीचर्स दैट वी हैड इनिशियली. ओके, सो ये डायनामिक नेमिंग समझ में आ गया. अब अगर हमें कोई चीज, अच्छा वी विल डू दैट लेटर. यहां तक समझ में आ रहा है रिएक्ट कैसे काम कर रहा है? टू बी ऑनेस्ट नो, दैट्स अ गुड थिंग. तो इसका मतलब आप वीकेंड पे बैठ के इसको अच्छे से देखोगे, समझने की कोशिश करोगे तो और समझ में आएगा. बट दिस इज अ वेरी वेरी ब्यूटिफुल थिंग, वेरी ब्यूटिफुल फ्रेमवर्क that has changed the modern web development a lot. It has a lot of industries adapting to this. No, browser cannot read JSX dimple. That is why we included Babel. So let me show you this thing. Let's go back to the Chrome and I will open a website. What website should I open? Let me go back first, decide on the website, and then I will open it. I'll open Netflix only. Netflix जो उस दिन हम लोग ने देखा था. Babel is the preprocessor. It converts your JSX. It processes your JSX. Okay. So here, if you see, can you imagine this? Initially क्या होता था? यहाँ पे characters, TV shows. अब मैं जैसे जैसे इन applications में move कर रहा हूँ, what is happening is it is not reloading. It is not reloading. It is taking me to new tabs, and it feels like nothing is getting reloaded. Now, if I try to watch Boss Baby and open Boss Baby ka version 2, we are not navigating from one page to another. Let's go to GitHub. No refresh, right? There is no refresh. अब आपने github.com में तो एक्सप्लोर करना शुरू कर दिया होगा. अब आपको मैं दिखाता हूँ GitHub कैसे काम करता है. So if I go to some tab, let's go to some tab. I'll show you the screen. Yeah. Can you guys see the screen? Am I sharing the right screen? Yeah. So I have this pull request, I have this issues page. If I click on issues page, if I go to marketplace, it reloads the complete page. If I try to explore something, it reloads the complete page. Can you see that reload functionality, right? It has that reload functionality all the time. But here, अगर मैं created assign click करूं, did it reload the page? Mentioned पे click किया, did it reload the page? No, it did not. It did not reload the page. But when I यहाँ पे देखना, टॉप पे देखना, पुल रिक्वेस्ट पे जब मैं क्लिक कर रहा हूँ तो वो रिफ्रेश हो रहा है पूरा पेज, एंड जब मैं इंटरनली इसको चेंज कर रहा हूँ तो ये रीलोड नहीं हो रहा है, राइट? सो this is a multi-page application and Netflix is a single page application. Okay, here when we go to this different tabs, what we are trying to do is we are trying to hit some backend, some server, and getting the complete code and loading it over here. यहाँ पे उन्होंने सारा डेटा एक्सेस कर लिया यहाँ पे, and it is not reloading the page. It has the data, it is changing its URL, but it is not going back to the server and coming back and loading the complete thing. ठीक है? But इसमें they are going to the server, getting back things, and then loading it on the server on the page. But Netflix में ये चीज नहीं थी, right? क्यों नहीं थी? Because they have loaded the page, they have loaded the UI, and based on the request that I'm sending, it is updating the page. Make sense? What is happening? So Netflix uses React, by the way. Netflix uses React as its front end, and this is called a single page application. This is a single page application where we do not have to refresh or reload the page for every request that we do. Okay, why? Because all these requests does not need to go back to the server and come again. This request is loading the UI for me, and then it is updating whatever is required. The data is getting uploaded on the same page itself, and these are the single page application. इसमें multi-page application, we call this as a multi-page application because this gets loaded every time I try to navigate to something. It loads the complete code or goes to the server, hits the server, and gets back with the information from the server. So it's not like that you need to create only single page application or a multi-page application. It depends on the requirement of your website. So I'll ask you two questions. What do you think Amazon is? Is it a single page application or a multi-page application? Quickly check and tell me. If you can't, if you know, just let me know. It's a multi-page application. Amazon Prime भी multi-page application है. Okay. Google Map. Google Map. Google Map is a single page application, right? क्योंकि जैसे हम zoom करते हैं हम और data fetch करना चाह रहे हैं, and that data is getting loaded without even loading the page itself. YouTube बताओ, YouTube क्या है? Correct. So you got the idea of multi-page and single-page application, right? Now there is also a hybrid technology जहाँ पे multi-page भी use कर सकते हो, single-page भी use कर सकते हो. So React is basically, yeah, Gmail is a single-page application. Now, React is used mostly to create single page applications. Okay. It's a technological difference, Dimple, what you are asking. The Angular uses TypeScript, which is a one step further. No, Gmail doesn't use React. Gmail doesn't use React, Gmail uses Angular. So React is mostly used to create single page. It doesn't mean that all the single pages are created using React. Okay, it means React is used to create a single page application, and there are multiple other technologies. Vue is one technology, Angular is one technology which creates a single page application. Okay, so React is one very popular front-end framework that we have, which is used to create single page application. Now, most of the companies rely on React because it is going to stick only to the front end. ये कोई बीच में घुस के बैक एंड से इसको कोई लेना देना नहीं है कि कहाँ से डेटा आ रहा है, क्या डेटा आ रहा है. इसको डेटा चाहिए, इसको डेटा मिलेगा और ये अपना लोड करेगा और अपना यूआई कंपोनेंट पे मैनेज करेगा. ठीक है. ओके, सो यू हैव गॉट अ pretty nice idea of how these things work. Now let's create a very small basic component. यहाँ पे तो जो भी हम चीजें create करेंगे, anything that I'm going to create, I'm going to create inside this source file. तो यहाँ पे एक फाइल ऐड करते हैं and I call this as example.js. ठीक है. अब यहाँ पे हम एक फंक्शन कंपोनेंट बनाते हैं, जो हमने पिज्जा वाला बनाया था उसी को कॉपी कर देते हैं. यहाँ पे आ गया. ओके, तो ये चीज सिर्फ इतना, ओनली दिस पार्ट. रिएक्ट डॉम रेंडर हमें नहीं करना है क्योंकि वो ऑलरेडी रेंडर्ड है. दैट हैज बीन यूज्ड इन index.js. वो वहां पे जाके ऑटोमेटिकली लोड कर देगा. ओके. Now, if I paste this, do you think this is going to work simply? हमने यहाँ पे लिखा तो सब चीज है. And why do you say no? Export import करना पड़ेगा, very important. सबसे पहले ये बताओ, import क्या करना पड़ेगा? CSS VSS नहीं import करना पड़ेगा हमें बस React import करना पड़ेगा. Import, okay, typing it at a wrong place. Import React from कहाँ से? जो लाइब्रेरी हमने अपने package.json में डाली हुई है. Because that will help us, that will make this. अब इसको ये समझ में आएगा, okay, now this is JSX. हमने वो सारी फंक्शनैलिटी लोड कर ली, अब इसको समझ में आ रहा है. अब इसको हम लोग क्या करेंगे? We will move to the arrow functions. क्या बोलते हो? So I'll call this let pizza is equal to an arrow function. Oh, sorry, गलत जगह. Yeah. No, we do not use React DOM. मैंने क्या बोला था? सिर्फ एक जगह पे React DOM यूज करेंगे जहां पे हमें सारा कंपोनेंट रेंडर करना है. ठीक है. तो इसको प्रॉप्स चाहिए और उस प्रॉप्स में हमें ये सारी चीजें चाहिए. ये रिटर्न हो रहा है. जस्ट लुक एट दिस नेमिंग. It should always start any functional component that you are creating. This is a functional component. Okay, this is a functional component. Now, any component that you are creating should always start with a capital letter. It's a naming convention. ये नहीं, यहाँ नहीं, यहाँ पे. Capital letter naming convention. Why? I'll tell you in a moment. But that is a good practice. So ये तो काम कर रहा है. अब मेरे को इस पिज्जा को यूज करना है ऐप में, मतलब मेरे एप्लीकेशन में I need to use this. How do I use it? Export default pizza, correct? Because unless I export this, it won't be available to anything else. So I'll say export default pizza. So when I say default, it means there can be multiple functionalities over here. एक के अलावा दो functions भी हो सकते हैं, ठीक है? तो when I say default, I'm saying that सिर्फ इस पिज्जा को एक्सपोर्ट करो. हो सकता है इस पिज्जा के अंदर हमने दो तीन अलग फंक्शनैलिटी की डिपेंडेंसीज डाली हुई है जो हमने यहीं लिखा हुआ है, ठीक है? वी डोंट वांट टू एक्सपोर्ट दैट, वी वांट टू एक्सपोर्ट पिज्जा ओनली. ओके okay, so this is the default export from here. Now that I have exported it, where should I import it? I should import it here because I want to use that pizza over here. I'll go ahead and say import pizza. Now this is a alias. This is called as an alias. Okay, alias is basically the name that you want to use. Let's say brand और कुछ भी लेते हैं, hungry, कुछ भी नाम, जो भी नाम है, ठीक है? From कहाँ से करना है? Now we provide the location. Same directory में, let's open this. Same directory के अंदर I want to get this example. बट यहाँ पे देख रहे हो नेमिंग कन्वेंशन से मेरे को कंफ्यूजन हो सकता है एट अ लेटर पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. तो मैं क्या करूंगा, ये example.js को रीनेम करके जो मेरा कंपोनेंट का नाम है वही नाम रख दूंगा. ओके, सो दैट आई डू नॉट हैव कंफ्यूजन. सो आई विल से pizza. Now I do not have to specifically go ahead and say .js. It is almost understood. Okay, and this is I'm importing inside app. This is not I'm importing inside index.js. Okay. Yeah. So this is separate entity. यहाँ तक हमें React चाहिए इसको functional component बनाने के लिए आना, right? ये JSX लिखने के लिए and all this stuff we need this React. But जब ये यहाँ से चला जाएगा तो ये पूरा प्रिपेयर होके जा रहा है मेरे app.js में और मैंने यहाँ पे इसको इंपोर्ट किया है. तो अगर मैंने इसको यहाँ पे इंपोर्ट कर लिया तो अब यूज कैसे करेंगे? I will go ahead and what I'll do is I'll create a div over here. उसके अंदर ये चीज डालते हैं which is this. Again, your thing should be similar to your indentation should be clear. यहाँ पे मैंने बोला कि अब मेरे को ये hungry यूज करना है, so I can use it as a component over here. So if I do this, I need to pass some properties as well. If you remember, I'm receiving some properties. So what I need to do is I need to pass these two properties, brand and description, correct? So what I do, I go ahead and say brand is equal to, अभी के लिए empty रखते हैं, and description इसको empty रखते हैं. हो क्या रहा है? अब let's say I create a brand value and I call this as pizza, Pizza Hut. I do this and I create a description. Okay, and I call this as best pizza in town. This again reminds me of pizza. I missed it out. I'll have it over weekend. अब हमें यहाँ पे या तो हम static values दे सकते हैं या तो हम dynamic values दे सकते हैं. How do I give dynamic values? I give dynamic values by saying, okay, use the brand name that I have used and use the description that I have used. Okay, what is happening? ये brand और ये brand से confuse मत करना. This is a variable name that I have used inside this method, and I'm using it here. ठीक है, अब यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, we are passing the properties to this particular hungry. इसको पिज्जा कर देते हैं. I was explaining it for naming convention, and I will change it to pizza. So make sure your alias is, ठीक है. तो अब क्या हुआ, यहाँ पे हमने ये प्रॉपर्टी पास करी. Now inside this, let me console.log, which we have been using a lot for JavaScript. Now I will use it over here. I am coming from app.js, and I will say props. I'll just print props. Okay. तो ये पूरा स्ट्रक्चर एक बना है. Let's reiterate हमने किया क्या है. हमने क्या किया, एक पिज्जा फंक्शनल कंपोनेंट बनाया, उसके लिए रिएक्ट जरूरी था. हमें कंपोनेंट जरूरी नहीं था क्योंकि क्लास बेस्ड कंपोनेंट नहीं बना रहे थे. और इस फंक्शन को हमने एरो फंक्शन किया सबसे पहले, एंड वी सेड दैट इट इज गोइंग टू रिसीव सम प्रॉप्स, and using that props I'm returning some value. Okay, so this is basically returning me a value, a kind of a structure maybe. And then I'm exporting this thing and importing it in my app.js, not inside index.js. Why? Because I just wanted one thing that gets attached over here, which is this app.js. App.js will get attached, but बाकी functionalities और बाकी components जो हम लोग create करेंगे, that will be inside as a child to app.js, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. And what I have done is I have created this over here, correct? I have created over here. Now let's check the output first. So we will go back. Where is my application? And it says Pizza Hut best pizza in town. So this is kind of a function component I have used inside the app component, right? First of all, you can see that pizza component is being loaded. And I have also said that, okay, print something on the console. So if I go inside the console, there is a lot of errors from the past. Index. Okay, so this is something related to the class name. Index.js. Yeah, so this is related to the version. We don't have to worry about this. Here, what you see is it says I am coming from app.js, and it is an object. Can you see that object with the value of brand and description? Does it take us back to the object of JavaScript? Right? So you might be getting the flow, you might be getting the hang of React now. Shouldn't it be plus sign instead of comma in pizza.js? Where is that? Anam, what? Where are you trying to say that plus sign? I'm not getting his point. In the editor. Can you unmute yourself, Om? What are you trying to say? I'm unable to understand.
Sir, I was saying that in that VS Code editor, you have right in the console.log, it is coming, I am coming from app.js, comma props. So shouldn't it be plus props like in JS we used to use plus?
No. Okay, do not confuse. This is like I can provide multiple values. It's like just for the text I have written this, and the second part is the props that I'm receiving. Plus की जरूरत नहीं है. Concatenation नहीं कर रहे.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Concatenation भी कर सकते हैं. That is not a problem. These are two different values. It's like a two different values I'm trying to put in console.log. तो वो side by side आ गए हैं दोनों इसलिए. All right. Okay, so Does it make sense? How are we working? Now, if you imagine our React application building, what we can do is we can create multiple such components like our pizza component and use it inside my app.js at one place, right? And the beauty of this is I can just copy this and paste it over here. And let's have a different set of brand 2, description 2. इसको हम लोग और ब्यूटीफाई भी कर सकते हैं, एड ए नेम ऑफ ब्रांड्स और ऑब्जेक्ट ऑफ ब्रांड्स, ठीक है, ये डेटा है हमारा। तो अभी हम लोग इसको डोमिनोज कर देते हैं। कौन खिला रहा था वैसे पिज्जा? कोई खिलाने वाला था हम लोग को। Who was that guy? Best pizza, better than the best. Okay, and now if I change this to brand 2 and this to brand 2, अमित खिलाने वाला था, करेक्ट। कब खिला रहे हो? So if I close this, you see two value. Why is it Pizza Hut again? Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, it shouldn't be Pizza Hut again. That is the previous value. Cool. If I refresh this, so we see some Pizza Hut as well as Domino's. Now if I close this, what do you see? Reusability of my functional component as well. Right? Pretty cool how React works. समझ पा रहे हो ना? क्योंकि इनिशियली थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम होता है, बट आई एम ट्राइंग माय बेस्ट टू मेक इट अंडरस्टैंडेबल टू यू गाइस. So this is what React is all about, and we are going to go into more details on how this works, and we are using the same concepts और इसी पे build करेंगे अपना fundamental strong करने के लिए. Yes, I can show you the file. I will share the file as well. So weekend के लिए आपके पास काफी माल आ गया पढ़ने के लिए. Confusion is very regular thing while you are learning React, because suddenly बहुत सारी चीजें चेंज हो जाती हैं, suddenly बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें आ जाती हैं जो कि आपने नहीं एक्सपेक्ट की होंगी, लेकिन इट्स जस्ट दैट यू नीड टू प्रैक्टिस दिस. तो जो भी हमने एक्सप्लेन किया है, जो भी हमने चीजें देखी हैं अभी, उसको आप रिलेट करना अपने अंडरस्टैंडिंग से, ठीक है? धीरे धीरे करके लिसन 5 बार सुनो, 10 बार सुनो, सेम रिकॉर्डिंग 10,000 बार सुनो, जितना टाइम लगता है उतनी बार सुनो, बट गेट योर फंडामेंटल्स राइट. दिस इज द फंडामेंटल पार्ट ऑफ इट. Once you understand this, then things are just going to be a permutation and combination of this whole thing. Okay? All right. तो एक बहुत important चीज आपको दिखा रहा हूँ. Please look at this carefully, because from now on, when I'm going to share the code, I'm not going to share this node modules and I'm not going to share this package.json. So I'll just clear this out. ये कोड आपके पास रहेगा, बट आप खुद से रिएक्ट ऐप क्रिएट करना. तो अभी के लिए मैं क्या करूंगा, ये नोड मॉड्यूल हटा रहा हूं. आई एम डिलीटिंग दिस and I am deleting package lock, not package.json. Do not delete package.json, because if you delete package.json, things are going to fail for you. Just the lock file. Okay? क्योंकि जो node module folder है, as I said, it is a auto generated folder. अब इसको मैं I'll go outside and check my status, and I will add this and git commit -m react CRA. This is create react app. बहुत इंटरनेट में भी आप अगर चीजें पढ़ोगे, so you will understand create react app होता क्या है. Create react app and components. Okay, and I'm going to push this. All right. ओके, लेट इट गो. ठीक है, तो अभी ये चला गया, पुश हो गया. अगर अभी इसमें नोड मॉड्यूल होता, yes, correct Shivansh, but I just wanted to show something so that people are clear on the basics of it. So when you are going to pull this in your system, git pull origin main करके pull करते हो, तो आपके पास विदाउट नोड मॉड्यूल्स विदाउट पैकेज log.json वाली फाइल आती है. इसका ये मतलब है कि बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर है आपके पास, अब आपको डिपेंडेंसीज इंस्टॉल करनी पड़ेंगी. तो उसके लिए यू यूज दिस कमांड कॉल npm install, because if you go ahead and get this and say I will use npm start directly, it will fail, and I can show you. Oh sorry, पहले तो उस फोल्डर में जाना पड़ेगा, my react app and npm start. So it is going to fail, it is going to show you these weird errors. Don't do that. First install. So for that you use npm install or I'm just writing install completely, and this will install all the dependencies that are required for this file, and then only you can run stuff. Okay, so whatever I have pushed on the GitHub will not directly run. You will have to go inside this folder and run npm install. Make sense? Okay, so by this you will see that node module will get updated over here. Let it come, give it a second. So git ignore file, what Shivansh is saying is about what all files do we need to ignore. So whenever I'll be pushing, इसमें बेसिकली डिस्क्रिप्शन होता है कि कौन सी फाइल मेरे को नहीं पुश करनी है गिट में. सो इसमें ये ऑलरेडी बन के आई है क्रिएट रिएक्ट ऐप से, एंड इट सेज ऑल दिस फाइल नीड नॉट टू बी पुश्ड. उसमें से एक नोड मॉड्यूल भी है, बिकॉज इफ यू पुश नोड मॉड्यूल it's a very heavy file. It might take ages, for sometimes it will fail after some point of time. And as you can see, node module has reappeared on the left hand side. Did you observe? It has reappeared on the left hand side. Okay, all right, so I hope you guys are clear on this. Tell me one thing, do you want to have a session on a Sunday? Saturday it won't be possible for me, guys, and that's why I'm trying to get a timing from you guys कि Sunday को क्या सुबह के टाइम कर ले कुछ. सिर्फ अनम खुश है इससे, बाकी शुभम भी खुश है, जगदीश भी ओके है, बट जैद को तो सीधा मंडे चाहिए. कौन सा एग्जाम है? संडे को थोड़ी ना असाइनमेंट और क्लास होते हैं. संडे को किसका क्लास होता है? पोल कर ले. पोल मेरे को क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा. ओके, लेट्स डू अ पोल. गिव मी अ सेकंड, आई विल जस्ट क्रिएट अ पोल. Just a second, I'll just create a poll for this.
सर मंडे से कंटिन्यू कर लेना सर.
कौन है ये एकदम जैद? अच्छा, लो पोल दे लो पहले संडे को. तो अभी हमने जो कल एक क्लास मिस किया उसको मेकअप तो करना पड़ेगा, फिर बाद में आगे चल के. एक सेकेंड.